saw you had a new calf, Renee.
I just got a picture of it, yes.
I
Yes,
saw it.
brand new.
I turned the corner, I saw it right there. Yeah. All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. Please remember to sign in at the sign-in sheet, especially if you wish to speak about something that is on the agenda or in the general comments at the end of the meeting. With that, Dr. Shemp, are there any revisions or corrections to the agenda this evening?
Just a few. There's a correction on the ECA list on page 51. Turkey, and we'll get there. I'll point out that there's just one name that's going to be there instead of two. So I'll point that out when we get there. And then there's a typo on page 3. There was an anonymous donation that needs to stay anonymous there. So I've already had that conversation with designated reader of Zach. And so last pages 64 to 66, there was a script that you saw for the bond. I shortened that up so that it's a little less than 3 pages, but I kept all the legal requirements in there. So those are the only changes.
Very well. With that, we will move on to the minutes from the July 22nd regular session meeting. Are there any questions, corrections, or comments on those minutes? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Kim has made the motion.
Second.
Gina with the second. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, we'll move on to financial business. Let's start off with payroll and claims. Dr. Shemp.
Yeah, pages 7 to 30. You're going to see all of the payroll and claims over the past month here. Then on 31 to 38, all of the financial reports for this period. 39 to 41, extracurriculars. 42 to 43, the utilities. Not anything really out of the ordinary to point out at this time. But if there are any specific questions on any of those, happy to try to answer that or look up that answer for you. If there are not specific questions, recommend that you approve them as presented.
Very well. Questions, comments? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve? Nick has made the motion.
Second.
Elise with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, we'll move on to donations. Mr. Secretary, would you please read the donations?
Yes. Park County Community Foundation anonymous donation in the amount of $18,720. Another anonymous donation, $500. Community Foundation Stutler Family Legacy Fund, $1,000. Rockville Athletic Alumni, $1,800. Boozenbark Farms, $250. Wesley and Candace Craig, $50. Community Foundation Mathis Memorial Endowment, $554. Community Foundation Overpeck Beautification Fund, $1,000. Covered Bridge Antique Power, $657.50. Rockville Rotary, $75. Bloomingdale Friends Church, $356. Otterbein Community Church, $600. Steel Dynamics Heartland, $500 for a total of $26,062.50.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you to all who gave those donations. That's a lot of money in a month, and we appreciate it very, very much. With that, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Gina has made the motion. Mark with the second. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, we'll move on. We got some fundraisers. Dr. Shemp.
Got 4 fundraisers listed here. The first is for Park Heritage High School Cheer. For them to do a clinic, hoping to raise $800. Dates 8/7 through 9/4. The high school FFA pickleball tournament, 8/22. They're hoping to raise $700. the high school FFA, again, the Werewolves Classic for a show, livestock show, 10/31. They hope to raise $2,000. And then the high school volleyball team and a youth camp on August 29th. They hope to raise $500. Recommend you approve these as presented.
Very well. Are there any questions or comments? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Kim has made the motion.
Second.
Elise with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, Dr. Shemp, student transfers.
Yeah, I continue to try to put this in a format that's a little bit easier to read, but it's there's so many different formats available, it's hard to get it into a really good single one. So I wanted to list for you, these are the transfers that I have paperwork on where people have actually signed off and that information is made into my office. There will be others that will come in every year at this point in the year where sometimes there are piles that have been in other buildings. But right now, we've got students kindergarten through 8th grade listed here, as well as 11th grade. There are a couple listed, and they come in from everywhere from Crawfordsville, Southmont, Southwest Park, Southeast Fountain, Clay, North Putnam. We have students from a lot of different areas. These numbers, like I said, come from the physical transfer forms, but if you want to go into Harmony and drill down, you can see how many resident enrollments there are. So the kids that live in our district that attend North Central Park, and those are listed for you. Rockville Elementary has 256 resident enrollments. Turkey Run Elementary has 189. The middle school has 252, and the high school has 291. And then the cash transfers would be those students coming in from outside, like what was listed up above there. So the total enrollment, so when this is printed, it's only as good as the print it. The total enrollment right now is 1106. That's within one of what I was projecting when I was looking at some dollars and cents budgeting. We got lucky there. 1107 is what I had in mind, but 1106 we'll take for now. Those are how the numbers stand at this time, and I recommend that you approve the transfers as they are listed.
So if I'm reading that right, on kindergarten, it says 5 and it says Crawfordsville. Did all 5 kids come from Crawfordsville?
That's what that would mean. However, sorry, there's a Rockville Turkey Run element there. And so actually that's a piece of that is we have to fill out the transfer paperwork still if you're a Rockville.
Inter-district transfer. Okay.
Inter-district, which is something that actually makes for a lot of work for secretaries. I mean, not that it just is another piece of their work, but they have to list that still right now. So that we can report them in the right location. Good question.
Other questions or comments?
You said that 1106 was without pre-K,
Yes.
and so
So if you add those numbers, it doesn't come to 1106 either. I know. So that was to the minute that those numbers don't match up. Pre-K, there's over 50 kids involved in preschool. And we have students from a lot of different districts coming into preschool as well. So that's encouraging, I think.
that doesn't include the Connect Academy either, does it?
It does.
It
It
does?
does connect.
Okay.
It does include Connect.
Other questions? If there are none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Zach has made the motion. Mark with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, looks like we've got a field trip, Dr. Shemp.
Yeah, Mrs. Wright-Smith would like to take a group of students to the Ron Clark Academy. If you remember back when we were at the Rockville Elementary for one of the board meetings a couple months ago, we had students that presented from the middle school, and there was some discussion about taking students. So this is an out-of-state trip to Atlanta, Georgia. Chaperones would include Ashley McCamus, Anna Lorenz, Shelby Wright, Amanda Games, and Daisy Blake. Students will be required to complete all the parental permissions, which would be handed out in middle school prior to the trip. The cost to the corporation would be fuel for the 15-passenger van that they would be driving down there. They've raised funds otherwise to cover the costs. So, since it's an overnight out of state, I'd like to have your approval on it or not.
Okay, are there questions or comments? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Gina has made the motion.
Second.
Kim with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, there is no old business this evening. There are no requests in communication tonight. So move on to new business. Looks like we got some personnel items. Dr. Schimpf?
Yeah, we've got a slew of personnel pieces here, which is not atypical for this time of year. So we have one resignation from a teacher, Jessica Hansen. That's including your packet. New hires, Case Lawson, Turkey Run Elementary title teacher, level A. Matt Miller, last year taught 1 period a day for us. This is the same language that it showed last year for Matt to teach 1 period a day again. Brian Harvey, Park Ridge High School vocational auto tech aide, 5 3/4 hours. Courtney Palmer, Turkey Run Elementary functional room aide, 7.5 hours. Autumn Hawkins, Turkey Run Elementary special ed aide, 5 3/4 hours. Start dates are listed there for each of them. Arlene Sandusky Ains, Park Ridge High School Library special ed aide, 5 3/4 hours. That's in addition to the hours that she's putting in on the food services piece. Jaboa Parker Schaefer, North Central Park mid-bus aide, 4 hours. Mackenzie Hassler, Park Ridge Middle School custodian, 8 hours. Sandy Boyer, Rockville Elementary custodian, 8 hours. And then there is a list of ECAs. Let's go ahead and skip that for right now and continue on this page if you would, and you can come back to those in a second. Carla Jarrett and Hannah Hart are going to join Shauna Crowder as lead IAs in the elementary life skills rooms. Their pay would be updated to $17 an hour, which is consistent with what Shauna was paid last year, as outlined in the classified handbook. This is being done as a solution to help with life skills where we were not able to find additional life skills teacher. We've got a transfer of Sandra Knight from custodian, 8 hours, to bus maintenance, special ed mid-bus driver, 8 hours. Pay is still $18 an hour, same as what she was making before, same days, different responsibilities. Samantha Brannon, Turkey Run Elementary special ed aide, 5 3/4 hours, to functional aide, 7.5 hours. And then if you want to take a look at the different ECA listings, I had said on page 51 there was going to be a change. Jennifer Conley is going to be the title help at Turkey Run Elementary. She's going to hold that alone. So that's the one thing to point out that I said was a change. And from there, you've got on 47 the whole list of all of the corporation ECAs at this point, which include your obviously fall sports coaches have already been approved, but you've got other coaches in here listed, academic teams, club sponsors, other ECAs that have gone with positions such as music, mentors for new teachers on page 51. Some of those teachers have been here for a semester or longer, but still want to have some mentorship. So we've extended a little bit on a couple of them. Then if you get to, or if you're at the point of page 53, you've got your winter spring athletic coaches listed there that Rich has passed along to me. And then finally on page 55, you have a listing of mid-bus routes. There are many of these. Travel all around the county trying to pick up as many kids as possible at their doorstep. Not doing a few random pickup spots, but at their doorsteps. And then page 56, you see the listing of all the teachers that have already been approved. I just like to give you that listing of here they are. Page 58, there's still an opening for a language facilitator. We're working on that. We've got a couple options. We filled in, we're gonna fill in with another group, and we have yet a third option that may end up working out better. Just kind of depends on what the parent would like to see happen to a great extent. And that should be all of my personnel recommendations. Are there any questions? Obviously, people go through background checks. We do all the follow-up that needs to be done on each of these.
So are there questions or comments on that big list? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Zach. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, bond lease hearing?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, Matt Shoemaker's here from Stiefel. And so we've got him in the room. He's gonna be able to help us out here with pieces of this. There's a process here that we have to go through. So it's a required part of the lease bond process. The board has to hold a hearing. So you're gonna wanna, in a minute here, Scott will have a script that he'll read through. Take public comments, and then afterwards, the board will need to vote on adopting a project resolution, a reimbursement resolution. Pages 62, just to break from that before we get far into it, I wanted to at least kind of show you, hey, here's where we're at as far as operations funds for the remainder of the year. And we will, after this bond discussion, talk about, I'll recommend to you working with another group, Moisture Management, who is here to represent and talk about that as well, which would have to do with roofing, updates, construction at Rockville Elementary, but the dollars are listed there for you just to kind of have a big picture. And then the 2027 bond, the intent of that, as far as the maximum that would need to be borrowed and more of an ideal number I've listed in red there, that we a preference to stay under or at a lower amount pending additional operations dollars being available. I know that's a lot, so forgive me. On page 63, you've got the outline of this bond hearing. And then 64, you see the prior version, which I've shortened up a little bit here. So don't have questions before we get to that, then it'll be time for, yes, Kim.
Is the amount on 62 for the 2026 operations fund, is that the amount that is left?
So there's actually more than that
Okay,
that's been appropriated there.
okay, and that was what we originally had bonded.
Well, that's actually operations funds.
Plus-
So the bond will be used entirely, but this is all operations
Oh, this is
dollars.
still left,
That
okay,
over the last couple of years, we've been rolling dollars
Right.
over,
right.
knowing we needed to do some work and then realizing the scope of the work.
But I didn't think we could use, but if it came from the operations, that's why we can use it for the other buildings. Okay.
Okay,
The next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a project hearing as previously advertised on a proposed project. If anyone is interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet, including your name and address. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Dr. Shemp, will you explain the purpose of the hearing?
pursuant to Indiana Code 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or bonds, it must hold a public hearing at which explanations of the potential value of the project to the school corporation and community are given. These public hearings and the adoption of the resolution is the very beginning of the legal process. These resolutions establish the financial terms of the proposed project. The reason that this project is needed is in order to make HVAC and roofing improvements and to purchase equipment. The heating and cooling systems at Turkey Run Elementary and Park Heritage Middle School have been partially updated over the years. However, there are components such as controls and outdated units, as well as technologies that need to be updated to run a more efficient and air quality controlled building. Along those same lines, multiple roof sections have failed inspections, will be replaced during this project. I consider that these improvements are vital to the longevity of buildings.
Thank you for that description. We will now hear from Stifel Nicholas Company Incorporated, our underwriter, about how the proposed project will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical taxpayer.
Hi, great to see you all as always. So I'm gonna walk through the presentation. I think you all have it in front of you. So I'm gonna start on the page that says the current debt service fund levy. As I walk through this, if you have questions, feel free to stop me and we can talk through those. So this is where the school corporation stands as of today. We've color coded this by bond issue, so you see you still have a payment left on the 2014 bonds next year, and then based on today, just the GO bonds that you would have done last year in 2025. The debt service tax levy is at 1.6 million, just like we projected last year. This current budget year of 2026, currently scheduled to drop to about 800,000 in 27, and then down under $400,000 in 2028. As we've been talking about these projects for the last few years, we've been putting together kind of that long range plan. Everything is going according to plan that we've laid out with this group, administration and the school board over the course of the last couple of years. As we look to the proposed 2026 project that's shown on the next page, and that says the debt service levy projections following proposed projects at the top. There in the gray is what we just showed you. That's all of your outstanding payments as of today. The green would be payments from the proposed projects that we're talking about tonight. The structure on this is not set. It's completely fluid. You guys will decide ultimately on what the repayment looks like. My job is just to show that this can be done without increasing the amount of taxes that you're asking for. So from 26 to 27, as we layer the green on top with the 2026 bonds, the debt service fund levy would stay right at $1.6 million. School corporation can borrow these funds, do these projects, ask for the same dollars from the taxpayers. So the school corporation is not asking for more dollars from the taxpayers above what is currently being collected by the school corporation. See, it'd be debt service levy neutral in 2027 and then drop again in 2028, again, kind of according to that long-term plan, sets you up for potential future projects, also while keeping that levy neutral moving forward. The last page has all of the financial parameters that you will see in your resolution. I will say that these are maximums, or I also like to say worst case numbers. A lot of these numbers that you see on this page are going to end up coming in significantly below this. Maximum par amount of the bonds is listed at $6 million. That is a not to exceed number. You can borrow any number up to $6 million, but you cannot borrow more than $6 million. And it's not an all or none proposition. You can borrow $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. You're not obligated to borrow all $6 million. It's simply there as a maximum. Estimated capitalized interest and cost of issuance. These are upfront professional fees, and again, I can tell you that that number is significantly higher than what it will actually come in at. But that's listed at $250,000, which would leave $5,750,000 in available proceeds for hard and soft project costs. The money actually going into the projects. Maximum interest rate is listed at 7%. If we're selling these bonds today, 4.5 plus or minus. We're not selling these today. Rates have been going up, but still shouldn't be anywhere close to that 7% if and when these bonds are sold. Maximum term of the bonds, 20 years. That is state statute. You cannot pay bonds back more than 20 years. You can shorten them, cannot go over 20 years. $6 million at 7%. That gives you an estimated interest cost of $3,298,750. Again, if these bonds are sold at what would hopefully be a much lower interest rate, the interest cost is going to come down hopefully significantly. Maximum annual payment, this is simply the highest payment you can have in any 1 year. That's at $1.6 million, which would match your levy. As we talked about, the net increase over the 2026 debt service levy, it's zero. You're you're asking for 1.6 million in the current budget year, that's what you would be asking for, even after these bonds are issued in 2027. Last two pieces of information that will be in the resolution is the school corporation's max annual payments as a percent of the net assessed value, that's 0.21%. And then a direct and overlapping debt. Direct debt would be debt of the school corporation, overlapping debt would be debt of other units that would be on a taxpayer's bill. Looking at that as a percent of your net assessed value, that is 1.13%. And you will see all of these numbers in the resolution. To that, questions that I can help answer?
So when do we, you said the payment schedule is open until when?
Yeah, so there's gonna be a couple more board meetings that you have to go through, cause these are gonna be lease bonds and not geo bonds. So my best guess is we're selling November-ish, so between now and then, we'll have conversations, again, looking at future projects to make sure everything fits together. You won't make a final decision 75 to 90 days, so we still have some time to work through the exact specifics on how you want this to look in terms of the repayment schedule.
What are the advantages, disadvantages of putting the payment schedule when we do this such that we leave the levy the same? And then if we need to do another project, then we would refinance, redo that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you think about a mortgage versus bonds, those two markets are very similar. The biggest difference is if you walk in today and you get a mortgage and it's 6%, and a month from now mortgage rates go down, you can refinance to a 5.5 or a 5. They go down again, you walk back in and you can refinance that at any point as many times as you want. When we sell these municipal bonds, investors require what's called a call date. Typically, that's at the 10-year period. The call date meaning that's the first date at which you can refinance your bonds. Investors want protection. If they're gonna buy your bonds and a month later you're gonna refinance it at a lower rate, that harms the investors. So investors typically require that call date. Now, we've done 7-year, 8-year, 9-year call dates. That is up for whatever you guys want it to be. But to simply issue bonds and then refinance 6 months later, unfortunately, the investors won't let you do that. So there will be a time in the future that you can refinance, but it won't be as quick as you could on a home mortgage. So as we look at this, again, as we have these conversations, it's going to be structuring the repayment schedule in a way that hits your financial goals, but also looks forward to make sure that you can accomplish those forward-looking goals as well. But we'll sit down, we'll have those conversations. It's your guys' decision, not our decision on what that ultimately looks like.
Right, because I think at least from my standpoint, my goal is to keep our levy basically the same, not necessarily fill up our debt service thing, you know what I mean? Not fill up the next 20 years by having to keep it the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's gonna drop in 2028.
That's what I mean. Okay.
Half.
Let's see, do I need to move on to the public hearing, or does anybody else have any questions?
Last paragraph on the page, I think, is where.
Thank you. At this time, we'll now open the public hearing. Remember, if you would like to speak, please sign in on the sheet, which is located at the sign-in table. Before you speak, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, keep any comments to 3 minutes, and avoid being repetitive if possible. May I have the sign-in sheet now so that I can begin calling on those names of those interested in speaking? Has anybody written down? If anybody would like to comment? Okay, take that as a no. So thank you to all who participated in the hearing. Dr. Schimpf, could you please summarize the project resolution?
Yep, a quick summary of the resolution on page 67 of your packet. So anytime a school's planning to spend more than $1 million per building, it is required. So this contains estimated costs of construction, cost of issuance. It essentially establishes the total project cost. And again, that was a maximum, as Matt had indicated. It also contains the estimated tax impact. So essentially, this is the first resolution that needs to be approved by the board or not in order to move forward with that next lease bond project.
Okay, I actually had another question so I would like for you to explain that. So our tax levy, where we're at today, who's paying what, and what's gonna happen as of right now.
So there's still one payment left on the 2014 bond. So there's projected to be about a 5-cent tax rate next year associated with that last payment. The rest of it will be spread out between everyone. Once 2027,
So-
That payment is Rockville's.
So the 14 bond, so essentially next year, Turkey Run's taxes
Be lower.
will be lower. Correct? And Rockville's taxes will be higher.
because they are still paying
Just like
They're
they are
still
now.
paying off, the
Correct.
2014 bond was an old
as
Rockville.
they were this year.
Correct.
as well. There is a smaller payment next year than there was this year, so.
But there's only one of the payment, yeah.
Correct, so the tax rate this year on those bonds was just over 11 cents, next year it's scheduled to be about 5 cents. And then once that payment is done, then it's everyone's
Everybody's
in the
together.
same bucket,
That's made in
for the
January.
first time in ever,
Right.
honestly, yeah. So then everyone will be subject to the same tax rate when these bonds, if these bonds are issued beginning in 2028.
And then our total levy for the school corporations, if you've done it here, will be the same, but that may fluctuate just a little bit. One of the old districts may go down and the other one may go up a little bit.
Yeah, that's 100% right. So each individual person, we're not saying is paying the exact same. That will fluctuate slightly, and it will every year depending on if
Right.
one person's house goes up a little bit more than the other in terms of assessed value. The total dollars the school corporation is asking for, that is the number that is staying the same from year to year.
Yep, just wanted to make that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions while I'm interrupted? All right, so we're down to the motion, correct?
Yeah, I'm recommending that the board approve the resolution as presented, the project resolution.
So if there are no questions, or comments, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the project resolution?
So moved.
Kim has made the motion. Nick with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Dr. Schimpf, could you please summarize the reimbursement resolution?
The next resolution is a reimbursement resolution relating to the financing and construction project. The resolution permits a school corporation to reimburse itself from bond proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to the closing of the bonds. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself. So it would be hard to imagine not approving.
Very well, could I have a motion to adopt the reimbursement resolution?
So moved.
Was, Gina?
Elise.
Please. Do I have a second?
Second.
Gina. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Thank you, everyone. That closes the hearing portion of tonight's meeting. So now, get back up to the agenda here. Now we'll move on to moisture management.
Okay, so in good news, it was not necessary to spend all the funds which had previously been set aside for Rockville Elementary and the HVAC project. So, what I'm asking the board to do tonight is to approve an agreement with Moisture Management. And this is a group that did the assessment of the corporation roofs, but they would be acting as, and they're here, and I'll let them speak for themselves here in just a minute, but just to give you kind of synopsis, they're gonna be acting as a management company with your approval to provide architectural design and engineering, prepare scope of work, conduct the bidding process for improvements, and provide oversight for work to be completed on the roof at Rockville Elementary this year. Completing this work would now allow us to utilize funds that were already earmarked for the building and to potentially obtain preferable pricing over what might occur if the work's to be done in the summer. The maximum cost of this will be $143,640. That is gonna be pending bids, but there's some fixed costs in there. I've got a number of different alternates, so I've looked at, I shared last month. If you remember, I can pass it around again, this picture with a lot of red on it that showed us, the different roofs at different buildings. But this is the group, Brennan and Michelle, who've come in, and Tim Garver had recommended them to me after having worked with them in our school corporation. We've met, we talked, they've done an assessment, and now I'll turn it over to you guys to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Pleasure to meet everyone. My name is Brendan Baker with Moisture Management. This is Michelle Leach with Moisture Management. She's our Vice President of Operations. I'm the President of the company. Thanks for having us here. We worked pretty hard with Tim and Mike to put together a 5-year strategic plan based on the condition of all your roof assets at each one of your facilities. And what we're here for tonight is to add to a little bit what Mike just informed you about, was to take some action towards moving forward with replacing some distressed roofing inventory on Rockville Elementary. Two things that we wanted to be here for, to ask the board's permission, is to advertise for those bids and to commission Moisture Management to go ahead and put the bid packages together, specifications, drawings, roof plans, etc. So those are the two things we're here, and also we wanted to be here to answer any questions or concerns that any of the board members may have.
I think one of the questions from last month when we brought this up a little bit was, where are the controls, right? Where are the checks and balances? How does Moisture Management not come in and just kind of run the show? And I think the answer to that has to do with the bid process, but do you want to dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically you would be commissioning us to be your architect. So we represent the school as your liaison to the contracting community. We would prepare all the bid documents, all the specifications, etc. Advertise for bids. When the bids come in, we provide counsel on review of those bids, validate those bids for you, make sure they have all their proper paperwork, their certifications, etc. Validate the actual bid numbers to make sure that no mistakes were made. And then once we decided with the board, we would make a recommendation to the board on recommending who we would recommend you award that contract to, and what amount of scope of work that would be involved. For instance, we do have a base bid, which would be all the red distress roofing on Rockville Elementary, and then we have several alternates that we're going to also take quotations and bids for as well, to see how much of the distress roofing we can get in one project. Once the project, you gavel in and award a contract to a particular contractor of hopefully several that bid the project, then we would help you with contract documents, put those together, again, we represent your interest, work for the school corporation. And then after we contract with the contractor, between you guys and the contractor, then we will take over the construction oversight and construction administration and construction management of the job. We're basically there to make sure that all documents that are submitted are correct, that they're actually following the specifications, and they're installing your roof system according to the specifications, so you get what you pay for. So we have inspectors on site. We follow through with all paperwork, and then as we go through the process, we will do a final punch out with the contractor, make sure everything's finished up, everything's locked in, and then we would offer a certificate of completion to the contractor. They would sign that, and we would close out the process. So we're kind of cradle to grave with you.
So a couple other things I would point out too before everybody dives in if you have questions. But when I first received this, I was trying to, as we talked about before, trying to figure out where can we spend dollars on a given year at a certain site, knowing that bonds have to work the way that they do, where we're not going to be able to do partial projects at different buildings with bonds. So as Brennan said, they'd laid out like a 5-year plan. It was something like $8 million worth of roofing possible. Now, he's told me multiple times that's on the high side. So I'm saying out loud here, that was on the high side, but that's the number that he set out over 5 years, that it could be as much as $8 million. They've not pressured me to go beyond the red roofs, right? And they haven't pressured me on the red roofs either. They just said, here they are, right? So in talking with them, I said, I'd really like to get the red roofs done at Rockville Elementary, which are the ones who've been deemed as failing. Right? I'd like to get those done with money that's already appropriate for the building. At the same time, I'd like to get prices on the other pieces, because if we can get more than that accomplished, knowing that the dollars were maybe high to start with, I would like to cover as much of it as possible. And then we looked at it from the perspective of try to cover classrooms first, right? So it'd be those orange areas that have the bulk of your students in them first. So that's kind of how I got to some of that. So on pages 71 starts to talk about a base bid of areas 4, 5, 6, 8, 9,
8,
12.
9, and 12.
12 is the 2 hallways by the gym in the front area, and those were probably 2 of the worst overall
Absolutely.
in the entire corporation, I guess I would say. And so those are definitely in there, and then the others would be the northern part of the building and the recent areas with the early childhood. And so then from there, it was breaking it up into different parts and pieces. On page 80, the other thing I wanted to point out was page 80 shows a proposed schedule of events. One of those would be, bid day is the date of our next scheduled board meeting. I talked to Brennan about whether or not they would be able to vet out contractors in that time. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, and so the validation would be received here at the administration building, and there would be a public bid opening. We'd read the bids aloud, and then we go to work right after that, and it's about a 2.5 hour process for me to walk through with the apparent qualified low bidder. I walk through the whole job with them, make sure that nothing is missed, validate everything. They do have a bid bond that they turn in with their bid. So if there was a reason that they needed to back out of the bid for a mistake, they're at your mercy, meaning you have 5% of that bid price to move to cover costs to move to the next low bidder. So everything's covered through a bid bond as far as insured. And yeah, we would validate that, and that gives me enough time from bid opening through the validation process. Once I validate, close that up around 3 o'clock, I can get over a letter of recommendation to Mike for your board meeting that night, and I'm more than happy to be here at the board meeting if you need me to be here.
And then the last thing that I want to point out before was he's listed April here, or they both listed April here, and as a completion date, and that's because of weather, right? I mean, we get the bids in, you got to mobilize contractors, do all, have all that process happen. They may have to close it all up, button it up for winter time. Maybe we get good weather, it gets done ahead of time. Maybe we're not able to get as many roofs fixed as we'd like to have fixed. So I wanted to at least point out that was why April was on there. And now I'll stop interjecting and let you guys, if you have questions, specific questions for them or be about any of this.
Any questions from board members? Nope, looks like we're good. So, thank you. Looks like we need a motion to approve the agreement between Moisture Management. Somebody like to make the motion?
So moved.
Kim's made the motion.
Second.
Mark with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
You need a motion too for, to advertise.
Motion to advertise. Guess we probably should have wrapped that in there, I'm sorry.
That's my fault, I'm sorry.
Better to get it now, so,
Okay.
we need an additional motion on advertising for the project. Anybody's appointed.
Would somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Lisa has made the motion. Zach with the second. All those in favor? 7-0.
Gotcha, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Spanish 3-4.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that Matt Miller has scheduling conflicts, is not able to do more than 2 periods this year. We had hoped that he might teach 2 periods for us this year, and we've ended up with a larger group maybe than anticipated. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, Bruce, but they didn't all fit in the 1 period, I guess we can say. So these students are gonna be impacted dual credit wise if we don't come up with a different solution for them, because they're not able to all get into first period class with Matt Miller. And so that's in the Spanish 3 and 4 classes. So we've done something similar with communications class in the past, and Ivy Tech was a solution. Bruce had checked with them. They said it'd be $1,600 per student, recommending that the board approve that expense for 26-27 up to 3 students, which would be a total of $4,800. We think there's only gonna be 2, right? But asking for your approval for that. That's gonna help these students be able to knock out the dual credits that they need to be able to fulfill all the requirements within the appropriate time period.
Are there questions or comments? Is there a long-term plan about getting a
We're working on a couple different plans. We thought that we were gonna have it covered with a couple periods this year, and that didn't work out. But long range, yeah, we'd like to get somebody who is certified, or have someone who's with us get certified to be able to teach those classes full time. Ends up being a good savings to parents, obviously. You know, can't spend that amount on every kid, but we're trying to find a solution here. And I think maybe social media even said, there were some people on social media that said, hey, those classes are really big, and sorry, we're doing the best we can to try to cover all those bases, but this is the solution we have for now. I'd like a better one in the future.
There are no questions. We have a motion. Nick, make the motion.
Second.
Gina with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, handbook update.
Okay, on pages 81 and 82 in your packet, this is gonna come across as a little bit different if you've not had a chance to dig into here a little bit, but I used Cheryl McDaniel's verbiage here. Cheryl and Bruce and high school group with Kayla spent a lot of time trying to process some of these updates to pathways. And when it comes to pathways for diplomas, and I'd asked that Bruce or Lisa would be able to be here because this conversation would impact their grades especially. I don't know at the elementaries if minuses would impact quite as much because we're not talking about credits, but we would be talking about doing away with minuses for everyone. And I can't say as well as Bruce did at the admin meeting. I don't know if you'd say it as well again or not, Bruce, but do you have the quote of what you said at the meeting? How you said it? Maybe Jenny or Lisa remembers.
If we're positive, keep it on negative, or get rid of the negative.
I think that was it. So it sounds kind of, on some level, it sounds a little bit, I don't know if crazy is not the right word, but it sounds a little bit strange. Why would you want to do away with the minuses? I don't know how many people who have ever been thrilled with receiving a minus on something outside of, hey, I wasn't a D plus, I got a C minus sort of conversation, right? Hey, I got the C minus.
Sounds a lot better than F.
A D minus sounds a lot better than an F, it does, but D sounds a whole lot better than a D minus too, right? So what we're trying to do is guard for these changes where the state has said, if you get a C minus or lower, we're not gonna count that credit. We still use percentages, and we'd still have the same cutoff at 70% for a C. It's just we don't have a C minus, and the state doesn't say what you have to do. Some corporations might say 68% is a C minus. Some might say 74% is a C minus. We're just saying, we don't need a C minus, a B minus, an A minus. We don't need any of the minuses, because that's gonna hinder some kids obtaining pathways for diplomas, which is gonna hit school accountability and dual credit as well. So there's no legal designation or requirement to have minuses in your standardized grading in your grade books. However, the board has approved a handbook. It's got a A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus. And so in order to do anything like that, obviously you take a board opinion. I don't know principals, again, if you want to weigh in at all, since I asked you to be here, at least Bruce asked, at least on the high school side, but if you wanna weigh in, Jenny or Lisa, you're welcome to.
We just feel like it's best K to 12 to be consistent when it comes to grade level percentages and things like that. So we try really hard between the two elementaries as far as standards-based grading that we moved to for our K to 2 kids. It makes sense. Our 3 to 12 kids are consistent with the same grading scale all the way through, just to get parents used to that.
I'm gonna give you one example that we had this discussion, and it was kind of surprising how quick the discussion went with the administrators, when I said, well, we said, do we really need minuses? And then everybody started they all raised their hands. That's not something that happens a lot in an admin meeting where everybody does that at the same time. Probably less than here, I would say, are they all that quick to do that. But as a principal years ago, I had a student who had a C minus, who did not receive an academic honors diploma because of that one C minus in a class that she missed 1 point on a test in that single class that bumped her to the C minus, so she no longer got to have an academic honors diploma. And it has stuck with me because she was a great kid. I can tell you her name, I won't right now. I can tell you her dad's name, I won't right now, because it stands out as a time where in my mind I thought, really kind of failed the kid. And I think this is an opportunity to not fail kids. It's kind of progressive, but I think it's a right thing to do.
This is gonna produce situations where we have like 10 valedictorians, like some of those other schools, where it really dilutes.
Percentage, aren't you?
Yeah,
You're
you're just
still
taking
gonna-
away the actual grade of a minus.
Realistically, we use the numbers anyways
Right.
when it comes time to determine who the number one student is academically based upon their performance in class. So,
Use the percentage that they got in the class, not the,
well, no, when you go to the GPA number.
Right.
So
But I
a
mean,
B is
now
worth a
they'll-
3.0 or
without the pluses and minuses, that means if everybody gets all A's, there could be,
you're probably gonna raise the bottom some.
there's still gonna be pluses.
There's still pluses.
It's positive, like Bruce said.
An A plus and weighted grades there's still that side, but I think you will raise the bottom. I know when I went to Purdue, we didn't have pluses or minuses.
Made it or you didn't.
Not saying that was right. Felt kind of harsh. I wouldn't have minded having pluses. Maybe minuses would help me too. So I don't know.
Thoughts by everybody on the board? Nick, you got any thoughts?
I think it makes sense. If the state's done something that's gonna harm our kids, I think this could correct that. I'm on board.
Elise?
Yeah, I mean, the way they've set up these pathways, they're kind of forcing us into this, and I like the flexibility of a minus, but we're kind of stuck.
No problem with it.
Kim?
No problem with it either. You're still getting the same grade.
Give them Small trophy, huh?
Getting ready to say, it sounds like everybody's gonna get a trophy, but I'm okay with that if it's the government's telling us, changing the rules on us and we can change our rule to stiff the government, I'm fine with that. So.
Mark?
Big benefits.
Sounds like we're good with it. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Kim has made the motion,
Second.
seconded by Elise. All those in favor? Everybody, 7-0. Okay, the minuses or negatives are out. Okay, natural gas purchasing.
Okay, at last month's meeting, Richard Kinchlow from NRG was here, and he presented to the board concerning natural gas purchasing contracts. Richard has provided me with up-to-date pricing information, like today at 4:00. I was getting this info to try to put together. He, as you know from last time, thinks a lot about this, and I got about 36 pages worth of presentation for you that I didn't print. I have it. You're welcome to look at it. It looks a lot like last time with some different numbers. I did make copies of the last page of it, which shows you what the cost of the gas would be. And so realistically, the idea is we're trying to protect the corporation from getting gouged on a really horrible winter storm or something to that effect. And so we're trying to also straighten up budgets so that long-term we can see that that cost is gonna be fixed for a period of time, which helps us plan for how to spend on other things. That page that you have there gives you examples of 12 to 60 months. And he talked about this 100% swing. I try to explain that a little bit more because I touched base with him a little bit on that. 100% swing basically means it's covered. So if the gas goes up $1 per therm or decatherm, whatever it may be, then we're covered at that rate that we locked in. Okay. If you didn't have 100% swing, you could purchase a set amount. That would be 0% swing. You could purchase a set amount and have that at a fixed cost, and then you're stuck with the market prices. Not in favor of recommending the 0% swing. He also provided a 10% swing conversation, which was where you could be covered somewhere between 90 to 110%. So if it goes more than 110% above, we would have to pay the difference. Corp would pay the difference. If it went more than 90% below, they're not paying us the difference, right, to make up for it. I'm not thrilled with that either. I'd rather, in my mind, have a recommendation to you to stay with 100% swing, which is covering the cost. It's fixed for a period of time. That relates to the cost per month because we're billed monthly. That's the way that I understand that. I also asked him if there are how many other suppliers do this in the state. There are 3 or 4 others. He said we know of one already, but there are 3 or 4 others. I've not tried to get a hold of them and get their take on this. But what you've got there is the 100% swing. And then they tells you, here's what it is, the index, which changes daily. This is the part that he was stressing, I'm gonna say stressing a little bit about, wanting to get me the right numbers today and to make sure and share. That could change a little bit by tomorrow because markets do what markets do. But you've got fixed prices there. That's that FP over to the side. Those fixed prices, would be for 12, 24, 36, 48, 60 months. I was leaning toward making a recommendation of 3 years, but I'd really rather hear what you have to say before that point so that we can get to where the board feels good with that.
Okay, Nick, what do you think?
I mean, this probably won't surprise you. I still kind of want to see what our average was for the 3 years prior that we talked about last time.
So I went back into individual bills and I saw ranges as far as, down to $2.70 up to this most recent $10 in January per decatherm. And I did not average out what those were.
I'm
But
not
that's the
necessarily
range.
against this idea. It's just in my mind, I'd like to be able to compare where we were versus what we're fixing into. That's kind of my thought on it.
Elise?
Well, I mean, we've seen these swings, you know, and if we get another couple storms, you know. I mean, I'm with you, Dr. Ship. We need to have consistent, as much consistency as we can get. I don't know, term is, I'm not sure about that.
Gina?
Don't know anything about it.
Well, he gave us a presentation.
Come on, Jimmy, you've had about 2 hours of education on this in the past 2 months, so let's.
Yeah, but when you talk to me about therms and decatherms. No, I mean, I'd like to see a cost comparison over like versus the last 3 years or whatever. But I know that that's, you know, whatever you wanna do.
I think the cost comparison won't be what you want it to be because, like you said, it was $2 to $10, and right now we're at more like the $10. So if we look at it for the past 3 years or 10 years or whatever, and we average it, it's gonna be lower than what it is now. I mean, but is it gonna go back to $2? I mean, I don't know. I'd probably bet not. So and I think in that very short presentation that we had last month, that when I was thinking we were looking at the 3 years being maybe not the cheapest way to go, but like without taking too many risks. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Nick's saying, but I think the average of the last 3 years is gonna be so skewed with those couple months or whatever that, when you look at those, what we get every month, it's like such an outlier. And I guess it's the risk versus the reward, so I'm good with lowering the risk. Possibly paying more, I guess. Smashed in January.
Yeah, I think we'd be better off to be on a budget due to, I mean, we don't wanna blow our budget like last year, so knowing what we're gonna have to pay. I'm sure that's gonna help out our finance department. So I feel that would be beneficial. And if we go 3 years, we're not going too far. Maybe that way if things do go lower, we can always revamp. I'd say it'd be beneficial.
I think it's beneficial too. I mean, for those that wanna know what we're talking about, I mean, last winter, I mean, we had our normal natural gas bill was what, like 10,000?
And it was 31,000.
And for a couple months, it was 31 because basically all those wells froze and the open market price went ridiculously high. So we're just protecting ourselves from this. I think the upside is worse than the downside is. So I'm good with it. I'm good with the 3 months,
3 months.
3 years, 36 months. But that's my thoughts. So, but I heard mostly that everybody was mostly for it. So we have a motion.
Make a motion that we go with the NRG that was presented, and we go with a 36-month, 100% swing.
Okay, Kim has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mark has made the second. All those in favor? 6, all those opposed?
And I'll just say, it's not the idea, it's just I wanted to have a comparative number. So we know, like, are we 20% higher on what we're fixing, or are we near it? So that's the only thing I'd say.
Absolutely.
And I think would be good for a cost comparison after 1 year of this too, for them to come back and give us a report, so.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
Because he should be able to do a better job of that than I would be able to, I think. But yeah, I understand.
Okay, move on to some transportation, additional daycare route.
Yeah, in addition to the shuttles from building to building, one of our contractor drivers runs a quick route to a daycare after school. He's done this for the last 3 years, or his contract has provided for this for the last few years. It's been $15 a day for these past 3 years. I would recommend that it continues to be $15 a day for the remainder of that contract until we do something.
So this
Different
is
if we
that
do
same route,
It's that
the same thing, the whole, okay.
They run over to the daycare and back.
There are no questions or comments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Elise,
Yes.
do I have a second?
Second.
Gina, all those in favor? 7-0. Okay, bus routes.
Yeah, each year the board's required to approve bus routes by September. Throughout the course of the year, routes are adjusted based upon students attending. This approval is primarily in order to comply with state requirements. I sent that to you in a separate email. And again, I didn't make copies of all of these because it's about 150 pages, I think, here. If you want to look through that, you're welcome to, but I feel like we've got a spot where drivers are given more input about what their routes look like and are sitting down and working some things out. We had, with the closure of, the road closure over here this year has made it kind of challenging. Route 1 and Route 2 got together, talked about ways to maybe take a couple kids off of 2 to help alleviate some problems. And, in talking to both of them, they felt like, at least to me, they said they felt like it was worked out well. Right? So they were happy with that resolution they were able to get to. But these routes are essentially a sign off, and I do want to thank Amanda Brown put a lot of time into these. Right? She spent a lot of time getting into this system and getting the maps in a more presentable format. So thanks, Amanda.
Well, a couple of the routes change once the roads open back up.
And what's our progress on looking at the routes like we were going to when we consolidated?
So one of the things about, so I don't know if you're getting at that, if there was any kind of realignment conversation. One of the things we discussed, I think it was the last admin meeting as well, was if you did have a first grader who was going to Turkey Run, who was going to Rockville Elementary, who lived in the former Turkey Run district, that student right now rides the bus to this building. They get off the bus and they walk inside the building. If the buildings were separated out, there was a primary and intermediate, that student would still ride the bus to this building. They would just instead ride just like a shuttle bus that 60 some odd kids do every day, hop on, take that shuttle to their first grade class over in the other building. So in some ways, that piece isn't as challenging as I was at least making it out to be. In my head, it seemed like a bigger beast than it was. Now, to go to the point of having pickup points and having a way to run up 59 and do something separate, we don't have that yet. What I would like to do is get past having Wayfinder, which middle of September, once we get those routes and we're able to really see, the kids getting on the bus, I think that's really gonna help us be able to determine if that is gonna be advantageous. I think it could be, but that's gonna give us some more information that we don't have right now.
Have you done any more vetting out having a transportation director?
I've talked with an individual about trying to help out in some other capacities, but Monty has been doing a really good job of coordinating. One of the toughest things, there were 4 drivers out last Thursday, I think it was, and he found out in short order, was able to piece it together, and I didn't have to make that dreaded call that I sometimes have to make of canceling a bus route. I hate to make that call. I've had to make it too many times already. I don't enjoy it. The parents don't like getting that call. You don't like them getting that call probably either. You may get phone calls about that, and none of us want that. So I was happy to see that he was able to handle that. Will be 100%. So far, right? So far we are. I will in miscellaneous here recommend another driver be added on as a sub, which will help with that, I think. But yeah, so we're making progress there, I feel like. But right now, it's if you're willing to make a motion on the routes themselves, that would be great. And if you wanna delve deeper into that, we can as well on the transportation front more. I do think we need to look at still, once we have more information, what can we do better?
All right, questions, comments?
Has the highway given you any indication when they expect the road to be open?
Bonnie's been talking with them, but it's moved back. First it moved up, then it moved back. You know, the weather, I mean, okay, I mean, who could see for all that rain? So middle of the month maybe at this point. Middle of September in my mind. Is what I think Bonnie told me last. I had the 14th in my head. I'm not sure that's right. That's for whatever reason, that's the date I had in my head. It's been a challenge.
Other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Gina has made a motion.
Second.
Zach with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Testing security policy.
Each year, bring into the board, and in the past it's gone through different hands, but this year it's Amanda Delp who's spent a lot of time putting together testing policy. I know she's worked with Beth a little bit on that. I know she's worked with Rebecca Corey a bit on that, Beth Faust, Rebecca Corey, who've held these positions before, but ultimately it's a procedural approval that I'm recommending that you approve this testing policy as presented.
There are no questions. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Kim's made a motion.
Second.
Lee's with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, miscellaneous business.
Just a couple things here. Personnel, I'm recommending that David Brooks be hired as a corporation sub-driver, and I've put in parentheses there, the pay would be determined by the route. That's because we have a lot of routes that there's a $45 route, there's the daily rate route, and so to try to define a number, it's really gonna be consistent with what the other drivers are being paid. And then the other is Rick Akers as a mid-bus driver for $50 a day. This is a special route that it's a single kid that needs to be run from place to place. That would pay out $50 a day. It's about an hour's drive each time.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Nick has made the motion.
Second.
Mark with the second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, that's it from miscellaneous business. Superintendent's report, Dr. Schimpf.
I just have a few things here. I mean, school year's off and running. Thankful to have that started. It's always better when the kids are here. I know I say that every year, but I mean it. It's always better when the kids are around. Budgeting is coming up. The budget process will begin that on the 16th. There will be a presentation. It's already far beyond begun, but we'll get into that, do a presentation for the board on the 16th. Teachers bargaining process, we can't legally do anything until September 15th. And so there can be informal conversations, but I've spoken with Michelle Cooper again, who's helped us the last few years. There's gonna be a need to have a bargaining committee again from the board, so I don't know if who might wanna serve on that. Great to know if some of you have served in the past, if anybody's willing to do that. I saw Mark, maybe.
We did it last
Is it
year.
us?
When, do you know when it'll be?
October 6th is
is
the
that
meeting
when-
date. Yeah, so October 6th would be that date with Michelle Cooper. We can, we can have up to 3, we can't have 4. So if anybody else has an interest.
Got Mark and Zach. Anybody else want to be involved in bargaining? All right.
Okay.
Every year.
So it can be biannual,
We
but
only approved it for a year.
it's on the biennium, and so when last year was a 1-year contract, this had to be a 1-year contract. Ideal world, we'll get back to a 2-year contract and not have to do it every year again, but just because of SCA 1 and all that,
It'd have been longer if we had a better bargaining team then.
So.
You said that there could be a third person to help them out.
Thanks for being willing to serve, I appreciate. I've already mentioned student counts. Outside of that, I mean, happy to have, Rockville Elementary is not, the air conditioning's working, passed down a thank you from a teacher, just, I don't know if it made it down the row or not, but we had a teacher reach out and say, hey, thank you for the HVAC. She said it's really nice to be able to teach in a classroom where it's not thumping above her ceiling. And first time in, I think, 19 years, she said she was able to have that sort of peace with kids and was appreciative. And so I want to make sure you got that thank you. There are some parts and pieces that didn't come in right here on the countertops. And so those are still being brought in and still having conversations about that. We're gonna get to the point of having some sort of punch list, but we don't want everybody to get away before everything's buttoned up just right. So some of the countertops that came in had backsplashes and they weren't supposed to. So we'll have to get new countertops in. That's one of the things that stands out. I know there's some ceilings and such that there's still some spots around sprinkler heads and just little punch list things. And then there are other bigger things like the bathroom space and it working, one of the bathrooms being usable. So there's some things like that, but we were able to at least start school on time. It's not perfect yet. There's some improvements that yet need to happen there. I did wonder about, just kind of skipping ahead, maybe segueing, for the one of the next meetings, if you wanna meet over there at Rockville Elementary, just so you can kind of walk the building as well, make it easy to do. If not, that's fine, but if you wanna do that at one of the following meetings, open to that. But that's the majority of what I have to share beyond the rest of tonight's business.
All right, any questions for Dr. Shimp on his report? Okay, superintendent's report is closed. We'll move on to comments from the public. Anybody like to speak? Mark, got anything?
Question, Connect Academy numbers, do you have those handy?
17 yesterday.
Is that
So that's 17.
Goal was
Yes,
10.
enrolled. Now that you kind of open something up a little bit here that, Bruce and I are having daily conversations because he's got students coming and asking him about, hey, can I get into online? And we're gonna have to have some real sit down conversations about how do we navigate that? Because on some level, if we shut down the ability to enroll after a date and somebody wants to go online, there's 1,000 other places they can go. So how do we, make the in-school experience so irresistible that they want to be in school? And at the same time, we have kids that are legitimately, just like the whole reason of why this was an option in the first place. We have kids who this process works better for them. I talked to an elementary parent today who said, or middle school now, I guess she's a middle school parent now. She's loving it. Kid does, partial in person, partial online, is able to get some advanced courses. But there's just a lot we're gonna have to be navigating as far as we don't want all the kids jumping out and going online. That's not the intent of it. But it's a process. 17 is the answer to your question. 17.
and I'm hearing some of that about kids wanting to like go through lunch and then go online in the afternoon or something like that. So I'm just concerned about if that's a lot of people talking about doing that or if it just happens to be ones that I'm hearing. Thank you.
It's probably gonna end up being a work session topic of some sort. When we get to the point of having a work session, we're gonna keep having to continue to talk through this.
You know, how many of the 17 come in for some part of campus?
I don't, but I can have Amanda come back and talk that through again too.
I didn't know.
Sorry, I don't off the top of my head.
Do we have a number of how many of them are outside of district?
Originally there were 7.
Right.
2 of those that had come from out of state are now in person. So we've also got the other side of that, right? So there were people who came in from out of state, decided to come here because it was online and now are walking the halls. So there's gonna be both sides.
The whole family is now coming to school.
Okay. Yeah, so more than, not just the original two, original's not right, but
We got the twins enrolled.
Anything else, Mark? Anybody else? Comments from the public? All right, comments from the public is closed. Our next meeting date is September 16th, regular session.
that's probably okay to, if you wanna just stick with that 16th for now, that's, and decide on the October one later, but I wanna put that information there for you guys. If you wanna look at future dates, it's your call.
October 7th works for me.
Is it September 16th, not the,
September 16th is our regular session, we'll do presentation of the budget, and then have to do a public hearing separate from that. That has to be 10 days before the ratification.
Doesn't the 21st then work for that? And that misses the Bridge Festival, doesn't it?
Sorry.
It
That's
misses the Bridge
After the,
Festival.
yeah, those two are on both sides of the festival.
we're good here with this list, right?
Can we plan to have the October 21st meeting at Rockville to do a walkthrough? Cause I mean, it's probably not gonna be walkthrough ready in September.
Works well for me.
They need, if it's not in October, we could do it in November, but
Lisa, you don't have anything else off the top of your head there on the 21st?
Top of my head, no, I think that'd be just fine.
Okay, we've got a little time if so.
Very well.
Just a thought, you usually do a budget hearing at some point, like at Rockville, you could always do that as your event at RES.
it's usually too early for those of us that work.
It usually takes 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's at 4 o'clock.
So right now, regular September 16th here. October 7th, public hearing.
Where do you wanna have that public hearing? On the 7th?
Yeah, we could just have that, I mean, that's generally a small crowd situation, or has been in the past, so we could just have it at the library at the high school.
We don't need a,
We don't have to have a quorum.
I won't be there either.
So that's October 7th at high school library. October 21st, that October regular meeting will be at Rockville Elementary in the cafeteria.
And there will have to be a special session at some point to approve teacher contracts, but you can, I was throwing out the 4th as a possibility.
Let's hold on, we'll just deal with that one at the next one. And if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.